and now so they debunked it. They said, "Oh, the spook was in this lady's toe." Okay, so now they reckon they've debunked this whole story because every time they ask a question, you just hear this clicking coming from
But I mean,
under the table.
how could the toe? No, but I mean, like if it's in the walls and the roof and the ceiling and the scratching and the police are there, and I mean, how could they not see it's in the toe? I mean, it just sounds ridiculous. I mean, the toe thing sounds more ridiculous than the ghost thing. If you're going to believe the toe thing, I'd rather believe a ghost story than a toe story. It sounds even stupider than the ghost story.
Mysteries, hidden history, and the unexplained. Join William Collinson and Lee Strydom on Strange and Mysterious World.
Welcome to Strange and Mysterious World, Season 3, Episode 23. Tonight, we're going to be chatting about the Battersea Poltergeist. It was an event that took place back in 1956. Pretty interesting. Kind of almost reminded me a little bit of a Ed and Lorraine Warren story, like with The Conjuring. Kind of reminded me very, very similar to those type of movies that was happening. So whether or not it was actually true or a hoax, that's for you guys to decide at home. I've got my own opinion, which I'll tell you at the end. And then maybe we'll at the end you can kind of throw in your 2 cents of what you think, kind of what was happening over here. Okay, but anyway, so the story starts in 1956. It's in a place in southwest London, a place called Battersea, and it was number 63 Wycliffe Road. This is where the family was staying, the Hitchens family. It was the semi-detached houses, so they're like kind of all on top of each other, these houses. So they stayed in one, and it was a double story. So at the bottom, it was Kitty, she was the wife. There was Shirley, she was the daughter. This is now Shirley was actually one where all the poltergeist activity started happening around. And then the father, Wally. Wally used to work on the London Underground. And then upstairs was Wally's mom and his kind of adopted brother, John. They used to live upstairs. Okay. And apparently everything was actually everything worked pretty well in the house. There was no issues. And then on the 27th of January 1956, Shirley, the daughter, finds a silver key, like an ornate key, on her pillow. It just appeared on her pillow. She finds it there. She goes to her room and she sees this silver key on her pillow. So she's like a little bit confused. So she takes the key to her dad. Now her dad currently is busy bathing the mom, Kitty, because she's now in a wheelchair, Kitty. She's got arthritis, like some heavy stage arthritis, so she can't really do her own stuff. So the father's busy bathing the mom. And Shirley says to her dad, "Listen, I found this key. Do you know anything about it?" And he said, no, just leave it on the table. And we could check it out later. Then a little later, he goes to look for the key, but the key is no longer there. And then Shirley finds it again on her pillow in the same spot where she found it earlier. So she takes it to him, and he goes to try and unlock all the doors, all locks. There was even an old box that was left behind by previous owners that they tried to unlock, and it didn't unlock anything. It was like just a key. But the strange thing about this key is that it disappeared. After this day, it was never seen again, ever. Okay. Now, what started happening that same night that she had found the key on that day? That same night, stuff started happening in the house, and it's little things. So, things like knocking on the walls, tapping on the floor. The walls seem to have knocking. And the noise was progressive. It kept going on until the early hours in the morning, like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. There was this like knocking and banging noises. Okay, so you think you got problems that you flooded your house? These guys here have like constant freaking rapping and scratching, knocking from like early hours of the evening right through to early hours in the morning. And it actually got so bad that the neighbors next door, who thought that Wally, the father, was busy uplifting the flooring. Okay, they thought he was like doing some home improvements at night, and it was making a hell of a racket. So they went and knocked on the door, and they said, "Listen, man, keep it down." And he said, "It's not me. There's nothing happening in the house." And the neighbors actually witnessed the noises coming from the house. Okay, and this went on for a couple of months. the noises and stuff. And it kind of actually, it started going into the day as well. So it wasn't only at night now. Night was in the day, and it was actually starting to drive them mad. Because can you imagine having this constant bang, 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 rap, scratch, scratch, scratch in your house, like constantly, where you can't sleep? It's an issue. And they got the cops in the phone. The cops said, "Listen, can you please just come and see what's going on?" The cops arrived. They opened the door. They heard the banging. They tried to figure out where it was coming from. They had no clue. They eventually left. They said, "Well, look, there's nothing we can do. It's not on our profile to do anything. I mean, we can't determine where it's coming from, and unfortunately, there's nothing we can do." So they left. Okay, this started getting around town. This scratching and noises.
I wonder what just started it like that.
I've got a theory, but I'll tell you a little bit later. So,
okay.
There was a guy. Now, there's two different. If you listen to the different podcasts or the different YouTube channels about this, there's a few different stories about how this guy came into their life. Okay, this guy's name was Harold Chibbett. Now, he was a tax collector during the day. He used to work for collecting the taxes, and at night he was a paranormal investigator. Now, apparently he was quite a well-known paranormal investigator. People actually knew him. He had one of his friends was our friend Alistair Crowley. He had connections with Alistair Crowley. There was another guy by the name of somebody Price. I can't remember his first name, but he was also involved in. So he had quite a scope of people that he kind of used to be in contact with. And so he was quite well known. So one of the stories says that he approached them and offered to help to see what was going on. And another story said they approached him. So whichever way, it doesn't matter. He landed up coming to the house and offering his services for free. But he would camp on the kitchen. So he's got his sleeping bag there with his little light and his little notebook. And then he would in the kitchen, he would make notes about stuff that's going on in the house. And he actually witnessed. He heard the sounds. They tried to figure out where they were coming from, because one minute they're in the walls, next minute they're on the floor, next minute they're under the table. So it was weird. Okay. But now, as this was progressing, the media around the area started getting interested. Okay. So now they started camping out on the lawn of these people. Now,
Jeez.
yeah. So now, because now it's becoming like a bit of a famous thing here. Right. Now, the thing is, when this guy, what's his name, Harold, when he was assisting them, things started progressing. So it went from knocking, scratching, and banging to a lot worse. Things started shaking, like the walls started shaking, where the pictures would actually drop from the walls. Pictures would land on the floor. Pots and pans were getting thrown across the room. So it started escalating, and you know the stories with poltergeist activity. It always starts small, and it's slowly but surely it starts progressing to something a lot more that happens.
Yeah, but it's also like it's always something that starts off like a lot of times it's with teenage people go through puberty, and it somehow like it starts.
100%. So the daughter Shirley, the one that this thing is centered around, is 15.
Oh wow, okay.
Okay. So immediately when I heard the story, I thought of that. I said, okay, I know the stories of poltergeist activity. It always happens around from the ages of about 12 to around about 16, 17. Okay. There seems to be a hold, whether it's activity that's coming from the psyche itself, from them, or whether it's possession. There's,
or even it could be like a telekinesis thing, because also like sometimes when telekinesis, we don't know, because I mean also because they're going through that puberty thing, maybe they start having telekinesis abilities, but it manifests in like a poltergeist kind of way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so that's why I said it could be her psyche, it could be something related to what she's doing, or it could be a possession. So at this stage, it's a bit unclear because people are kind of unable to figure out what the hell's going on. Then it starts escalating even more, where there's fires that start happening in the house. spontaneous fires. Okay, so they call in a fire marshal, and he walks around. He's like, I can't, I don't know. It's not arson, because they can kind of figure those things out. He said it's not arson, and it doesn't seem to have started by a person. They just seem to be randomly starting. So they checked electrical things because there might have been an electrical shortage somewhere. That wasn't the issue. So it was unexplained. He said, look, he didn't know. He can't say for certain what the story is. Okay. So now, with the media people being on the lawn, the family decided to bring in some of the media so they could perhaps interview, get the story out, and perhaps just so these guys can leave them alone. Because you know what it's like, and you've seen the movies, the media, whether it's a killer movie or whatever the story is, the media's on their lawn. They don't leave the people alone. The oaks get stressed. So it must be quite a cuck life, because you almost become bound to your house. You can't leave it. As soon as you leave the house, the oaks are like bombarding you with questions and cameras and lights and fucking microphones everywhere. So they were getting a bit annoyed. So they decided to invite two people in. Okay, there was a guy by the name of Ronald Maxwell. He was from the Daily Mail. And there's another lady by the name of Joyce Lewis. She was from something called the South London Appetizer. It was a news thing at the time. So these people came in to interview the daughter Shirley. Okay, but in the interim, so before they actually started interviewing, what had started happening with this entity is they actually named the entity, the family. Okay, and there was a reason for that. So they started calling him Donald. Now again, depending on what story you listen to, somebody said they named it after Donald Duck because Donald used to throw tantrums, so they named it after Donald Duck. Another story said they named it after a friend that used to live next door. His name was Donald. It was a guy that she used to play with when she was younger. Okay, so depending on which story you listen to, his name was Donald. Some stories said the mom, Kitty, named him Donald. Other stories said Shirley named him Donald. Okay, jeez. Whichever one, his name was Donald. Okay, they called him Donald. So now when the interviewers came in, they started interviewing her, but then the interview changed to almost interviewing Donald. Because they asked, they were asking, so what would happen is they would have a yes and no and maybe. So they would say, okay, can we interview Donald? And she said yes. Okay, the girl said yes. All right. So, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have one knock. If you do one knock, that means yes. If there's two knocks, it's no. If it's three knocks, it's maybe. Okay. So they started asking questions, and there was a knock, two knocks, three knocks, knock, whatever the situation is. And once they'd finished, they then left. Okay, but again, things it got worse. Eventually, they asked old Harold to leave because it seemed like he was becoming very obsessed with the case, and he seemed like he was becoming very obsessed with Shirley. So they thought there's a bit of an unhealthy, because maybe she's 15, he's like creepy. I think he was in his 50s.
She's like it, dude. Okay. Maybe he's getting possessed.
Well, they thought, look, maybe there's something happening with these two, so let's he must go. So they told him to go. He left. He said, no problem. But now, obviously, in the interim, now that he's gone, nothing stopped. It kept going. The stuff is shaking. Things are getting thrown around. At night, the blanket gets pulled off of her. The father, while he got burnt. There was a massive cut that appeared on him, and there was a burn mark. So he got burnt in the house. Okay, sure. So things were escalating a little bit, and he ended up going to work, old Wally, one of the days, and he was so tired, dude. He was like, and his boss said to him, "Hey, dude, you're looking like stressed. Maybe take some paid leave, take your time off." So because obviously, he couldn't sleep, shit in the house that's going on, and funny enough, a colleague that actually works for him. All right. He offered to do an exorcism because apparently he was a psychic medium. All right. And this guy that's offered to help, his name was Harry Hanks. Okay. Now, I've got a bit of an issue with this, but anyway, we'll talk about that later. So he then offers to do a exorcism. He says, listen, I'm a psychic medium. I can exorcise her for you if you like. So obviously, like him at the end of the rope, he says, yeah, fuck, come, assist, come, please help me out, anything, because at this point he's willing to try anything. So they set up an appointment. He goes and checks the girl. He goes into a trance. He says, okay, cool, we need to do a séance at my house. So they set up a séance at his house where they want to bring the girl across, but she's not so keen. They've even involved old Harold as well, and he's not keen. He says, no, you guys shouldn't be doing this. They've invited reporters and photographers and all sorts of shit to go to the séance, because I think in those days it was quite a big thing, occultism, back in the 40s and 50s. I don't know if you remember, but occultism was like it was like a fad. It was like an in thing.
Yeah,
Everybody was
seances.
doing it. Yeah, seances, all those things. All the guys were doing it from the early 20s, I think. So he invited all these guys, and they're gonna start with this ritual. And next minute they hear this banging on the door. Now these other oaks are used to hearing all knocks and noises, so they don't care. But one of the guys gets up and he goes and answers the door, and it's the cops. And the cops reckon, listen, they've been informed that there's a satanic ritual going on. They had to investigate. So obviously one of the reporters tipped the cops off. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So they've rocked up there. They've had a look at the guy said, no. It's just we're doing a séance, and nothing out of the ordinary is going to happen besides the normal stuff that we do with séances and Ouija boards and that. So they were like, okay, no, cool. So they left, but nothing happened. He said he had managed to exorcise her at the end of it, and for a couple of days it was okay. After the end of that whole thing, it was okay, but then it started coming back again. So it didn't really, that whole thing didn't help. So now Harold comes back and he says, listen, guys, I've got another way of trying to communicate with this thing, and let's see what's going on. He's got something called alphabet letters. So he's got like A, B, C, D, whatever, okay? And he says to the entity, all right, so if you want me to say this, you need to tap on a specific letter. So if I point up a letter, you must tap. And then I'll spell out a word that you are tapping. So he would spell out, but like a lot of the times the spelling was pretty bad, but they got the message, okay?
Yeah.
They kind of got the gist of it, but some of it was French. So some of the letters was like but bad French and very basic French, okay? So they've got a parlor at their house, Kitty and Shirley and Wally. There's a parlor. So Harold takes over the parlor. He says, okay, this is going to become my space, my office space. I'm going to lock it at night so no one goes in there. So here they have all his investigative stuff that's going on in that house, and he's got the key with him. So he's like reckoning, okay, no one can get in. I'm the only one that's got this key. But every day he got back there, he would find letters, okay, telling him certain things, what the letters were saying. But so some of this starts thinking, I'm thinking a little bit shaky, because one of the letters says, Shirley is forbidden to get a job. Okay. Then the next letter said, Shirley must go and buy the most expensive clothing. Okay. Then the next letter said, so there was a heartthrob. I'm trying to remember his name.
So the creepy guy on the kitchen floor, is he writing these letters because he just wants to bone her in a nice
he rocked up at the parlor, found these letters. The letters were in the parlor when he got there. They weren't there when he left, and when he got there, these letters were there. Okay.
Okay.
And they're spelling out all these things, but again, I've got an opinion of that. Now there was a heartthrob. I'll get his name from the late 50s or early 50s, late 50s. Now, one of the things said that this letter said, no, he needs to see this heartthrob, this young teen heartthrob. Okay. This is all pointing to a girl for me. She doesn't want to work. She wants to buy the most expensive clothing, and she wants to meet the most popular TV movie guy. Okay, so somehow she got into that fucking parlor, dude, and she put those letters there. I don't care what anybody says. They didn't just appear there because no ghost is going to write those type of things. Okay.
No, it'll be in French and like badly spelt and
very bad, but it's like
French.
basic stuff. It's like basic words that most people would actually know. So anyway, now this guy Harold, he decides, okay, he's going to go to France. He's going to go investigate all these letters, because apparently there are over 4,000 letters that were written over a period of time. and some of it was in French, and some of it was talking about certain French plays, and some of it was talking about. So anyway, he goes to investigate, and he finds.
So the French got better. It wasn't just like omelette de
No,
fromage.
it was still going on. So he now goes to France and he goes and investigates the letters, and he says, yeah, fuck, there's actually evidence of everything that is in these letters is actually in documentation. It's actually in historic record. And it comes to light that the person Donald may be Louis the 17th. He was the son of Louis the 16th and the queen that had her head chopped off. What was her name? Maria Antoinette. So apparently he was the son. Okay. But according to history, he died with the family, or he died kind of close time with the family. But according to this story, he actually didn't die. He managed to get away. They helped him escape, and he got onto a ship towards England. But the ship sank. Okay. So he actually never made it across to England. But anyway, so he's like so excited. He said, fuck, I've got the evidence. It's here. And then he realizes, he checks that there was actually a broadcast, a TV broadcast, on the day that all these letters started happening with the French, about the French Revolution.
So the girl's like...
so she had been watching TV the whole fucking day. Just writing fucking letters. Trying to spell the shit, which is obviously not spelling properly. Okay. And then there was also writing on the walls, but like pretty bad cursive. And specifically the C's. The C's looked like pretty... So they thought, okay, it was the entity trying to write the messages, but they were like very badly spelled. And then eventually he thinks, oh no, fuck. So Harold says, I've just wasted all my time investigating all this shit, and it's actually for nothing. And then he gets a phone call from Wally. That's the father.
Because he thinks it's the chick now. He's like,
he thinks it's a fucking hoax.
The 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
So she's like she's hiding in the house, like banging on the walls and stuff. Or
now I'll tell you what the story is with that.
Yeah.
So now he's pissed off. He thinks that it's a whole big hoax. Then he gets a phone call. So you remember, there was in that one letter, she was told that she had to meet that heartthrob, that young kid. If she didn't meet him, this guy would land up in an almost fatal accident. Something is going to happen. Okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, he's in France. He gets a phone call from the dad. He's about to put the phone down. He says, no, fuck, I don't want to talk to these Jose. And the father says, turn the TV on.
So he
turns onto a specific channel, goes and looks, and lo and behold, this heartthrob had a car accident. He landed up in hospital and almost died.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So now that makes me think a little bit. I'm thinking, is it coincidence? But it was specific to this guy. It wasn't like,
did she go cut the brakes at night time?
No, I think this guy was quite away from them. And she's only 15. So, and she was fired from her job because stuff started going missing. So I think she was a kleptomaniac. She started stealing stuff out of job. And she blamed the ghost. She said, no, it's Donald. Anyway, so, and then the story kind of ends where everything, up until about 1968, it started. She got married in the 1960s, the early 60s. Small things were happening, and then it eventually just faded completely. And then apparently in 1980, 81, 82, she had moved house. This is Shirley now. I think obviously the parents were all dead and everything, and she's now living in a very different place. And there was a psychic that came to her on the street and said, listen, did you have a family member pass away recently? And she's like, no. She said, like a boy, like a young boy. Did he pass away? She says, no, not that I know of. And the psychic said to her, because there's a young boy, he's got reddish hair, he's wearing like an old blue jacket with like crumpled white top, standing next to you. So she's like, oh, okay, cool, thanks, man. So anyway, the psychic leaves. Now, at this time, Harold is dead. Harold Chibbett they've passed on, the parents have passed on. This is now in the 80s. She goes to Harold's diary, because Harold made a diary of everything that had happened. and she gets to a page where he's got the diagram or the picture of Prince Louis the 17th, and it's exactly as the psychic described the boy that's standing next to her.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it wasn't her after all.
So we don't know. So we don't know the story. So here's the thing. In the late 2000s, so 2018, they got a person to, these specialists that come and do your writing, they can come and check.
Check your I forgot what it's called. Actually, geez, we should actually get one on the show to interview them.
Yeah,
they can tell a lot about you, your personality.
Writing. Yeah, but now they can actually decipher. They can check to see if you wrote this document.
Oh, it's just the people that just decipher writing, not like tell you like your personality from the writing.
No, it's those guys that actually come in and they can say, yes, you wrote this letter because it matches your other. As much as you're trying to hide it, it's you because you can see the way that you've done certain letters. So the writing on the walls was actually her, because they matched her writing to this writing on the walls and to the cards, and it was actually her writing. Her writing. Although she tried to cover it up, and when they interviewed her about it later,
I
think she's still alive. 2021.
Oh my gosh! Well, why don't we just get her on the show? Let's get her.
Okay.
Okay.
So in 2021, they interviewed her, and she said she doesn't recall it. Perhaps this thing entered her and started writing almost like automatic writing. Went into it, but she doesn't recall any of that at all.
Interesting,
Yeah. So now there was another couple of theories that people said that happened at this time. Okay. In London in this year, there was something that happened regarding freezing ice that actually ran under their house. There was like a tunnel system that ran underneath their house. I don't know
like an ice factory.
No, I don't know if it was sewage or I don't know what it was, but there was something specific running underneath the house, and everything froze. They reckoned that even in that year that the doves that were in the certain area all froze to death. They froze stiff and they died. Okay. So they reckoning it was actually the ice melting that was making all this noise, the scratching and the burning and the scratching and the knocking and.
How does ice melting make knocking and
I don't know.
That you can't sleep and the police come over and hear it and
I don't know, but apparently when it falls, it makes a noise, and it was like so. Apparently,
sounds like some swamp gas story to me.
Yeah, but that was one of the theories. That was one of the theories of the story. And she sticks to her guns till today. She still sticks.
That's
to
the
her
dumbest. That's the dumbest explanation I've ever heard. the scratching.
Yeah, there was another explanation, but that was also just as dumb. I can't remember if the guy said it started to do the piping and that, but they said no, they checked all of that stuff. There was nothing.
I mean, it couldn't just be her hiding in the cupboard.
Oh shit! There is one major thing that I forgot to tell you. When the investigate the media guys, when they interviewed her, and they were asking questions, they would they would say, "Are you here?" You would hear like a click, like a knock, to say yes. Do you wish to hurt Shirley? 2 clicks. No. Okay. BBC got hold of the story. Now they wanted to interview her. Okay. So these reporters, they kidnapped her. So what had happened? They go to the mom and they say, "Listen, we'd like to interview your daughter. Is it okay?" And the mom was like against it, and they offered her sweets. The daughter Shirley, they said, "Come with us. We'll." Like when your parents say, don't take people, don't follow people that offer you sweets. So she eventually goes with them to the BBC, okay, and they start interviewing her. And
so the BBC bribed her with sweets to come on the show.
No, well, the media guys, the reporters gave her sweets to get her to.
They're like, "I got some candy in my pocket. You want to reach in nice and deep and get it?"
So anyway, she gets there. They start interviewing her, and they start interviewing Donald, and they're hearing the clicks. So now the one guy bends down and says, "Look, it sounds like that noise is coming from your shoe. Take your shoe off." So she takes her boot off, and she holds it up, and now they take a photo. That photo actually it's in the newspaper. It's in a newspaper article with her holding up the shoe. Okay. They then take her to a doctor. Straight from there, they take her to a doctor. And they said to the doctor, okay, we need you to check out this chickie's feet.
Yeah.
So he investigates, and she's got something called hammer toe.
It's not hammer time, hammer toe.
Hammer toe. So hammer toe happens especially with ballerinas, where your big toe, because you're balancing on the toe, where the joint is, it starts to bend.
Yeah.
Okay. And she actually did ballet when she was younger. She did ballet when she was younger. Now, what happens is you can actually click. You can click your toe and it makes noises.
Yeah.
Okay. So now the story is that these guys are talking, and now so they debunked it. They said, "Oh, the spook was in this lady's toe." Okay. So now they reckon they've debunked this whole story because every time they ask a question, you just hear this clicking coming from.
But I mean, how could the toe? No, but I mean, like, if it's in the walls and the roof and the ceiling and the scratching and the police are there, and I mean, how could they not see it's in the toe? I mean, it just sounds ridiculous. I mean, the toe thing sounds more ridiculous than the ghost thing. If you're going to believe the toe thing, I'd rather believe a ghost story than that toe story. It sounds even stupider than the ghost story.
So here's my theory. Here's my idea. Paranormal activity started happening in the house. Okay. Mm-hmm. They didn't know what to do. People came in. Started interviewing, nothing was happening. So they start elaborating. They start perhaps doing shit on their own, making it seem more plausible coming from themselves. So she would add her own.
I suppose but that's also, I think also sometimes you probably get so frustrated because this phenomenon is happening to you. And like if people come around and then it stops happening and you can't, like, you'd like grasp at straws and be like, well, how are we going to make them people believe? Because say it happens to you and you really want other people to believe, but there's no way you can do it because it's either when they come over it doesn't happen.
Yes.
Or, so you're getting frustrated and you're obviously looking like an idiot. I mean, I can totally see it. And then you start like having to, because it's real. So you thought, well, if I just do these things and then make them think it's real, because I know it's real, but like I can't get them to believe it. Let me just do these things to try and make them believe that there's something. Yeah,
100%. So I think there was a mixture of both. I think there was a mixture of actual paranormal activity, and I think there was a bit of a hoax on her side that she was putting on a lot of the stuff. Perhaps like embellishing stories that were happening. I suppose
also if you're 15 years old and all of that attention, everyone in the media is on the lawn, and I mean, it quite could get to your head. Maybe she really liked it and started,
Well, she did. She was apparently she was quite an attention seeker. So.
Okay, so she just took those hammers out of her shoes and started like fucking working away. She should have just a construction company could have just hired her and she could have just gone and built some houses or something and just like nailed
with her toe. Okay, keep it still, like, buddy.
Look, Mom, no hands. Just nailing planks together.
Yeah, fuck. But so that's our story for tonight, the Battersea Poltergeist. So it's up to you guys to decide whether you think it was a true story or total hoax. I think there's still people investigating it now, even today, that are unsure because, like I said, people have gone in, they've heard the stuff. Some of the banging that was coming was actually heard from the street. So your toe is going to be needing to. It's 100 decibels to hear that banging, dude. So that's your toe ain't doing that.
I wish there was some pictures of their toes. That would be even more interesting. Why don't they take a picture of the boot? Why don't they take a picture of the fucking toes?
Well, I suppose you can go and see a ballerina's toe. You just got a picture of a ballerina's feet. It'll show you what her feet look like. But yeah, so that's the story for tonight.
Okay, great. Yeah, so what is the title of this show going to be? The hammer toe?
The hammer toe ghost. The hammer toe time. Hammer toe time. Hammer toe time, yeah. Anyway, guys and girls out there, thank you very much for listening. Hope you like and subscribe. We'll have a couple more ghost stories, obviously, as the years go on and as we keep with our podcast. Thank you guys for subscribing. Subscribers are coming up nicely. William, I know you're busy. Thank you for your time. And we'll chat to you guys next week. Thanks, buddy.
Okay, cool, man. Cheers.
Cheers.